Everyone, welcome to the third round of the 2013 British Chess Championships Major Open in Torquay, Devon, England. And this was not a game I was looking forward to because I was rather annoyingly paired against someone from my local league again who I've played before in much closer locations to Hilton Manor. Because it is rather aggravating going all this way and spend all this money to play people I could play back near home. I've come to this to play Southern people, but we're getting against Damian McCarthy, who's got a FIDE of, I think it was 1895, but his ECF is gone up to 169, which is nearly 170, so quite high, and higher than me of course. And I have a dubious distinction of always drawing with him in 3 games, so hopefully I was going to break this duck by winning. And I got a bit lucky with the prep actually for once, because he walked straight into it, which never happens. I played d4. Now you might think I've just won with 23 moves with e4, so why change it, especially when he's a Sicilian player, and also the same line to which I beat the guy in 23 moves with. But the problem is he knows it about 52 times deeper than the other guy. In fact, he's a king of openings. So anything like that, the only way real chance I've got against him is to play something that will get an advantage, because if I play something rather dodgy or weak, then they'll just easily equalise and probably outplay him because he's a stronger player. So I thought my only hope to get a result of this game is to play something that will probably get me an advantage, and then hope they won't outplay me out later. So I played d4, and he played what I expected. He'd dabbled with a Budapest think in early rounds, so I had a quick look to recap the line, because he played some very rare line. He did it was I'll quickly show you, because e5, you take knight g4, you play bishop f4 first so you don't get your bishop trapped in. Then we have these book moves, and we play this move, queen e7, e3. Oops, don't play that. My touchpad is about screwing up as usual. Basically we get this continuation. Castle a3. Then he plays bishop c5, which is the main move is bishop takes d2 check. And after b4 he plays me bishop d4 we did. So of course if I take, then he's got knight d3 check, full stopping from castling and winning my f4 bishop back. So you have to like move the rook you do, and I've had a game on this line before actually, even though it's not been played before according to my database. I've had a game with it, so I was hoping to walk into it and white ends up better, so I could probably win that position. But sadly he played e6 instead, and after knight c3 I got what I expected, the Nimzo-Indian, which was popularised by Aaron Nimzowitsch in the 1920s, and I play myself as black quite a lot. The point being is black is fighting for control over the e4 square. He will usually fianchetto his other bishop on b7, trade his bishop off my knight to reduce my grip on e4, and at the same time inflict structural damage on me and weaknesses on my queen side, where of course in return I will get the bishop pair. This is a very sound opening, and I think it fully equalises for black in every line except the move I played, which is Qc2. I think this is the only testing move. I mean, of course there's the Rubinstein with e3, I think could be quite testing, where white is aiming for classical development and can either put a knight on f3 or e2. I used to play the Leningrad with Bxc3, but I don't think it's very good. It usually just gets blocked up and white's bishop pair means nothing and black ends up better. There is a very dangerous Simish variation, but I didn't fancy playing something that risky. a3 is sort of trying to defeat the object of the Nimzo-Indian by putting the question to the bishop straight away. So a sip of iron brew. This is hard work in these videos, makes your mouth very dry. There is knight f3, the Kasparov variation, which is just solid. There was g3, some Catalan type variation. It's just because the point is black's move isn't threatening anything, so white has a lot of different moves. There's queen b3, which is sort of the same idea of queen c2, but it's inferior because the queen's very misplaced here. There's the, I think it's the Dilworth gambit with e4, which is just very bad. What other move I missed out? Oh, of course F3, a line which contains the infamous Hilton gambit. So there's about 52 different moves in this position. But yeah, I played Queen C2, which is the Capablanca variation. Now the reason this is testing is because White is aiming to win Black's bishop pair and avoid structural damage. And if White manages to do this unscathed, then White will have the better position. So Black has to act very energetically, and the moves are 4 castles, d5, c5 and knight c6. Now I had a feeling if he did any others he wouldn't know him that well, because I know he's a knight c6 player, but I think this knight c6 line, which is known as the Barry-Milner variation, just like in that gambit with the French, it's sort of like a Burgundian, but I think there's something dodgy with it, because in a lot of Nimzo positions Black is playing c5. Have a look at some lines. Now the one I've been played against Thompson at Leeds was the castle, and there's some very sharp lines. We've got after a3 the main move we take, and then play this gambit, and this SMFM pasted him with it in the NCL, where I stupidly took extra pawn. So of course you should just bring your bishop out and then play something like f3 and aim for e4, and White usually ends up better, but it's quite cool to try this gambit. D5 is a popular move as well. Again, you get the idea of this. And then maybe play knight e4, queen moves, and then you should use about c2 actually. Then you play f5, and you get a sort of Dutch stonewall position with this knight very active. And also it's quite blocked up to try and reduce White's bishop pair. And White usually puts his knight in h3. And then if he wants to boot the knight with f3 without allowing the queen h4 check nasties, and get an interesting position. Of course, there's much more on this, what I'm telling you, but it's beyond the scope of the video to explore detailed, tough and complex Nimzo-Indian lines. And c5, you sort of get some Canticilian type lines, where White's only good move actually is to take. And then some like, Black will develop the knight out somewhat here. And then you get a3, oops, not that. Bishop c5. After knight f3, there's actually an interesting trap where if White plays bishop g5, there's an interesting trap where Black actually plays bishop takes f2 check. So if the king takes, we've got this knight g4 check, which is a common trap you see in e4, e5 openings with White doing it. So knight f3, and Black actually does a very instructive move now where he plays queen b6 to attack f2. It seems pointless because White can just play e3, but Black retreats the queen back to c7. Oops, not there. Black will retreat the queen back to c7, which is a very instructive manoeuvre, because he's forced White to block his bishop in, and then Black will set a hedgehog up with d6, etc. We played knight c6, the Barry-Milner variation. The plan basically is to set up a Bogle Indian type position, which is bishop b4 check after 3 knight f3 if White doesn't allow the Nimzo. So the lines are rather compatible with each other. But I just think this is a bit dodgy, because I think the c pawn needs to be used. And I've played this myself as White-Black before. So I played knight f3, castles, bishop d2, so I want to retake with the bishop actually, because it's on the strong diagonal. d6, a3, takes. I just think this is a really nice position for White, and I've prepped this. Queen e7, g3, e5. Interesting enough, around this point he actually started spending ages, which really surprised me. I mean, to get Damian out of book before move 15 is quite an achievement. And now d5. Knight back goes back to b8, which looks strange, but he's got an idea of playing a5. It's like a King's Indian type plan. a5, a4, and to get knight to c5. I wonder if in this position can he actually get away with b4. But I think he just plays a5 anyway and fights for the square. So I played him with knight h4, which I had never seen before. And this is what I looked at again from Rowson's, a Scottish Grandmaster, where Black actually responded with knight h5, and White ends up castling queenside and gets hack attack in. But he played g6, stopping knight coming to f5, which I don't think is necessary. And amazingly enough, I never actually put the bishop on g2, because my prep involved putting the bishop on d3. I played e4, and now a5. So of course we're preparing to put the knight into a6 to c5, which is a very strong square, putting pressure on e4. and looking at b3 as well. Bishop getting to d3, a4. It's a very different knight a6 to c5. Now I play queen d2, which looks a rather odd move, but I want to drop the bishop back to c2, where his knight comes into c5, which looks a bit strange given that he probably won't take the bishop, but I wanted to cover the b3 square. The only downside to this is that when I castle queen side, I've put my queen in a sort of forking position. But also the queen can shoot to h6 in some lines. Knight a6. But now I think I've misplayed this because I think black is slightly better in this position. My bishop pair is very ineffective. Now I played a very passive move. I played f3. Sign of things are going wrong. I'm being outplayed. Now I came to c5. Bishop c2 of course, covering b3. Now knight h5, which is actually quite a bad move by him. I think he's getting too worried about non-existing threats on the king side, but he does maybe have plans to play an f5 at some point, especially when my king's in the centre, or if I dare castle king side. I think an improvement is now an interesting move is to play c6, which is quite risky because he's accepting a backward d pawn if I take. But I think the dynamism getting returns more than compensates. So if I castle queen side now, this is actually quite bad because c takes d5. C takes d5, or e takes d5, both of them, and then some like rook b8 with b5 ideas. You're going to see a demonstration of this in one of my rapid games actually. You're prepared to be amazed. So maybe you should just get on with it, because I'm obviously going to castle queen side, because, well I'm not obviously, but he can play bishop h3 and castle king side if he wants. Knight h5. I castle queen side. It's quite safe actually because my bishop's controlling all the key squares around my king. As long as I don't play something like bishop b1 and lose my queen, then it should be okay. It's hard for him. Well, he can get even if he gets b8 b5 in, it's still my bishop on c3 is controlling the b2 square to stop any nasty threats. You play bishop d7 because he needs to finish his development. Now his rooks are talking to one another. I think I told my knight. Not sure why I did that. I now expect him to play I expect him to think Keto his knight as well in this position. I thought with the idea of playing getting f5 in, but is f5 really that good? Let's just say I play king b1, consolidating move. If f5, then I can just ignore it and bring my knight to e3. Let's say he tries b5, not b6. This touchpad is very dodgy. Then I'm not sure. Maybe I could play h4, h5 and get some attack going. It's an interesting position. But he shot me with f6. I think he expected me to play f4 at some point, and then he'd answer f4 with f6 to keep e5 solidified. But now he's given a chance to play g4, and now I think I'm getting an advantage now because he's kicking his knight back to a bad square, which is g7, which is okay if he wants to play f5, but if he's not, he's obviously not going to play f5 now because he's wasted the tempo. Although then getting block position, his tempo doesn't matter so much. And now I played h4. So basically I want to try and maybe get some kingside attack going because it's opposite side castles. And of course he might try and kill me with rook b8, b5. Which although probably won't kill me, it's still not good. So he prepared that, he played rook a b8, preparing b5. Now I played h5, and now as expected he played g5, which looks quite good because it's blocking the king side up, and it does weaken the f5 square chronically, but I can't really take advantage of it because I've only got one knight left, and he can just remove it for his bishop if it ever gets there, and it's a block position, and the Nimsel player is never going to care about losing the bishop or two. Another alternative, you can actually get away with taking it, I think, because even after g takes, I've got an open for g file, but he can just stick his king in the corner and it's not doing anything. Say he's queen f7. Not that. Say queen f7. Dg1. Just king h8. Queen h6. And he's b5. I'm not throwing anything. Although white still seems to have. In fact, actually, knight h4 is quite strong in this position with ideas of sacking the knight. In fact, knight g6 check's a bit of a killer. So I actually think rook g8 has to be played, but knight h4, because knight h4 now can be answered by knight takes h5. But what he played I think was best, g5, that's what I will play. And now I play the key move. This is your test for this position. Every game I'm going to make sure there's a test. What to play, what is the key move in this position, which I found actually. Okay, the key move in this position, and it says a lot about this game, the fact this is the key move, is to play h6. Because the problem is, if I don't play h6 myself, let's say I play knight e3, he plays h6 himself, and I'm never actually going to break this down, it's impossible. And although Rebcast seems to say it's better for me, this is definitely not better for white, I can show you. I've got nothing I can do now on the king side. His knight actually is going to be active, and he can just play b5, b4 and try to maul my king side. Although it probably still pretty drawish, but after h6, knight e8, the thing is now this knight can never actually move, and the only way to free the knight is to play the risky move c6, which is quite risky of course, because d6 will probably be hacked off the board. And the fact is, now his rook can't do anything either. So this move h6 just killed two of his rook and his knight, which is actually a very good move, and I would give this move an exclamation point any day. And it's a very good move by me. I also have plans, I still have attacking plans. I can just pile everything up on the g5 point and just sack everything and hope that I can get a mate. So I played knight e3 aiming for f5. He played rook f7, card move. And now I spent ages on this move and lost most of my clock advantage I'd gained from the opening. I played knight f5, which can't be a good move, because after he takes it, g takes. I'm lucky I've got a big space advantage, otherwise I'd be getting out of play, because he's got two knights with two bishops in a clear block position. But it's still a bit better for white because it's so blocked, got such a massive space advantage. The problem is engines like my space advantage, but after king h8, bishop b4, I played some cheapos trying to get rid of this knight, but he played rook a8. And I thought, and in fact actually I should never get rid of this knight. This is a blunder, because now I've given his knight a nice square on d6. So this is bad, this. So I played rook dg1, and he played rook f8 and offered a draw. And I accepted it pretty much instantly, because there's nothing really in this position. Like in the comments, I appreciate if you can find a plan for white in this position to try and win the game, because if anyone's better it's white. Just this massive space edge. I mean, I was thinking briefly of playing, just pound everything on g5 for a sack, but you could even stop that. Just very dry. He said after a game that if I'd have rejected it, they've fiddled around till move 40 to get another 50 minutes and then tried to get in c6 and to get some counterplay and get his knight out, and it'd be an interesting game, but he's a strong player, so I took my fourth draw in as many games against him. But I was disappointed not to have done better with the position I had. But anyway, he puts you on 1.5 out of 3 and a nice solid start to a very tough section. And please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.